my analogies may not be great, but this is like a tune-up. We're going to refine some things, and we're going to make sure our players are playing to their strengths on a consistent basis, and they're going to buy into the system and the whys and the hows of why we're doing certain things. But we've got a good defense. We've got really good players here, and we've got a really good defense, and I'm with you all in terms of the stats. Somebody asked earlier, there was some regression, and we're going to overcome that, but we're going to do it in a positive way, and we're going to do it where the players are going to be able to shine through that defense. So, I think we'll build some depth, and we'll continue with our tough physical mindset of play and do that over a 16 to 20 week season.
I'm not a big car guy either, but I know what a tune-up is, I think. Do they even still do the tune-up? The tune-up was, I don't know what the tune-up is. You know what the tune-up is? The tune-up is a way for the mechanic to charge you a lot of money to just open the hood and make sure everything's okay. I think that's what a tune-up is, Charean.
Replace the spark plug, maybe? Yeah.
Something about belts and filters and Johnson rods, and I don't know. I don't know. All I know is how to drive it. I really don't care what goes on under the hood as long as it goes on. Then I'm fine with it. All right, will it go on under the hood for the Bears defense? We're going to do a little buy and sell of various defenses that may be in a state of flux on this Tuesday edition of PFT Live. And let's start with the Bears. Sean Desai, you saw him there, the new defensive coordinator, a Vic Fangio disciple. Mike Pettin, released by the Packers, landing in the division with the Chicago Bears as a senior defensive assistant. Intriguing times for the Bears defense. And Miles Simmons and I were talking about this last night. The Bears offense is going to be the biggest impact on whether or not the Bears defense is any good, because the better the offense, the better the defense. Are you buying or selling the 2021 Bears defense?
I'm going to buy it, Mike, because when I look at defenses, I start, and this is the Bill Parcells philosophy, with what they have as pass rushers. And they've got one of the best in Khalil Mack. And look, he's got to play better than what he has. 2018 was really his last great season when he had 12 and a half sacks and 18 quarterback hits, and he hadn't done that over the last 2 years. But they have him, and they have Robert Quinn. To me, a problem has been coaching for them. They haven't been the same since Vic Fangio left. Over the last 2 seasons, they have 67 sacks, which is 22nd in the NFL. They have 20 interceptions, which is 25th in the NFL. They have fewer fumble recoveries. They just haven't been good at forcing turnovers and making sacks. And they have the players, I think, to do that. They have to put them in position to do that. And Sean Desai has been there and seen it and knows how Vic Fangio did it. And I think with some tweaks, he can make this a really good defense again. The Bears are built on their defense. We remember all those great defenses that they had. I mean, this is a defense just a few years ago that's one of the best in the NFL. And they haven't been that over the last 2 years. So I'm buying this defense. I think they can be better with some good coaching.
Eddie Goldman, defensive lineman, expected back after opting out in 2019. It just occurred to me, will they be giving guys an opportunity to opt out again in 2020? I can imagine that some guys may just want to wait until this pandemic's completely over. We just assume they're all going to flock back, and we also assume the teams are going to welcome them back. We've already seen Chance Warmack cut by the Seahawks right after the Super Bowl. He opted out for all of the 2020 season. And there should not be any resentment, any retaliation, any you weren't with us last year, so we're not with you this year. But some of these old school football coaches, you can't rule out a little bit of that. Hey, we could have used you last year, and I'm not happy with the fact that you chose not to play because you were wrong, we were right, it worked out. That's a dumb way to look at it if that's the way anyone looks at it. Akeem Hicks needs to be healthy for that Bears defense and the pass rush to be all it can be and for the Bears to be able to stop the run. But, I'm going to say it's too early to tell on buying or selling the Bears defense because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know what the offense is going to be.
Right.
If the offense is crap, the defense will follow. And if the offense is good, the defense is going to be much better. So the sooner we know, and I don't know. Look, there's plenty of names out there, plenty of guys available. But is there really someone that you look at that you say, the Bears go get that guy, and I'm going to feel entirely different about the offense, someone who's actually available. There's plenty of guys that they could get that you would say, wow. I mean, they're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson, are they? I think it makes it even harder to trade for Deshaun Watson when you could have had him 4 years ago. I think it makes it harder to give stuff up to go get him now. I don't see them trading for Russell Wilson either. I don't think they're going to get somebody that's going to make us perk up and say the Bears are a force this year. Do you?
No, well, Mike, I started doing our free agent list last night or yesterday, and you have Dak Prescott number one, but we obviously all think that the Cowboys are going to franchise Dak Prescott, and then if there's a fall off, like last year we were talking about all these free agent, you had Tom Brady, you had Phillip Rivers, you had all these guys who are free agent quarterbacks. You go down, my next quarterback was Jameis Winston, and he was way down the list, and you may say he was way too far down the list because quarterbacks always go higher than we think they do. It works the same way in the draft because they don't have them. And you look at Jacoby Brissett, he's on the list. I mean, the Colts don't even want him back. To me, there's just not a great list of free agent quarterbacks. It would have to come in a trade. Andy Dalton, does that do anything for you? I just don't see a guy that the Bears, I'm with you, that they can go get that I say that this offense is significantly better. And I hate to say this, but Mitchell Trubisky might be their best option just because he knows the offense. He's been in it. And if that's the case, Bears fans are going to hate that, and the media is going to hate that, and everybody's going to hate that. But I just don't see a good option out there unless they can get Deshaun Watson to come there. That's, to me, the only upgrade they have. Jameis Winston, is he an upgrade for them?
Possibly, depending upon what they can do with him. If that stuff in Tampa Bay, especially the last year, was a product of no risk it, no biscuit, and Jameis Winston throwing the ball up for grabs and having 30 interceptions, he still had more than 30 touchdown passes. Yeah. So it's going to be hard to sell any of the guys who are available to the Bears fan base. And maybe that's why they're interested if they are in Carson Wentz, because compared to your other options, maybe he's not that bad if he turns it around, if he proves that last year was an aberration. All right, the Detroit Lions, NFL worst points allowed per game last year, 32.4, worst in yards allowed with 420. Aaron Glenn is their defensive coordinator. They're going to bite some kneecaps, as previously discussed. Are you buying or are you selling the kneecap-biting Honolulu blue and silver Detroit Lions defense?
Well, that's my guy, Aaron Glenn, so how can I not buy on Mike? But are they going to be great? No, absolutely not. But I do think they'll be better than what they were last year simply because they can't be any worse, right? I mean, they were awful last year. And, they look confused is what Aaron Glenn said, which is an indictment to me on Matt Patricia and what they did with that defense. So maybe he can put them in some positions to make some plays. I mean, you have Jeff Okudah, who they passed on quarterbacks there to take him with the number 3 overall pick. He didn't live up to that number 3 overall pick last year, but Aaron Glenn loves what he has with him at corner. That's a starting point, but they need to add something to that. They've got a lot of free agents. Their top sack leader, Romeo Okwara, is a free agent. He had 10 sacks and 11 tackles for loss last season. They do have Trey Flowers. They have some parts to build around. But, there's not a ton of talent over there. They've traded all that away. We saw the 2 safeties they had that were fantastic. They've traded them away. And just this is a team that's rebuilding, Mike, and it's going to take some time, which is, of course, why we've talked about Dan Campbell getting a long contract.
Well, and I'm selling because we had multiple years of Patriot Way mentality as they tried to compile players who would do things the way that Matt Patricia wanted them to be done. Now they're looking for a different type of player, and there's only so much you can do in one offseason to fix a team. And if the salary cap goes down, there will be some guys out there that maybe they could try to snatch up, but it may take more money to get them to come to Detroit than it would be for them to go to a place where they think they've got a chance to win right away. I think everyone is taking a wait-and-see approach with the Lions. I'm definitely taking a sell position for now. Next year I may feel differently. For now, definitely not. New York Jets, Robert Saleh, the successful defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, in as the head coach. Last year, the Jets were 24th in yards allowed by their defense and 26th in points scored against their defense. Are we buying? Are we selling the New York Jets?
Well, Mike, I feel the same way about the Jets as you feel about the Lions. Robert Saleh is one of the best defensive coordinators in football. I think he's going to do a great job eventually. I just don't know that he has the parts there. Quinnen Williams came on and played really well late in the season, but what other playmakers do you see on that defense? To me, they're just missing a lot of parts that he needs to get that defense where he needs it to be. And there's not a lot of 49ers free agents he can go snatch up. There's a few he could go get that he could bring in that already know his defense. But to me, this just seems like a building process that's going to take a while, especially for that offense and where they finished up last season.
The ultimate referendum on Richard Sherman at this point in his career is whether or not Robert Saleh tries to sign him.
Yeah,
somebody was telling me last night, Richard Sherman says he wants to play 2 more years. That's easy to say. I mean, Adrian Peterson wants to play 5 more years, okay? You got to find somebody who's willing to employ you at the pay that you want for the next 2 years. And if the Jets aren't at the front of the line to get Richard Sherman, that when they clearly have the need, that may be a warning to John Gruden, who, when last we mentioned him, was in full tampering mode with Richard Sherman. We'll see how that one goes out. I'm gonna do a soft buy, just because I believe that Saleh can come in and take whatever they have and give it the right kick in the butt and make it better than it otherwise is. So it's going to seem better, but I think it's a couple of years away from being what it needs to be. LA Chargers hiring Brandon Staley of the Rams, staying in the same stadium to take over the Chargers. 10th in yards allowed, 23rd in points allowed. Derwin James didn't play at all last year. Joey Bosa still has periodic injury issues, but he's clearly one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. They've got some great interior defensive linemen. Linval Joseph was excellent in his first year with the team. They have the guy from Notre Dame who was a first-round pick, Jerry Tillery, from a couple of years ago, who's played well. Are you buying or selling that defense?
I'm buying a Mike. And again, I think it starts with the pass rusher and Joey Bosa, and they have that in him. But this was a decent defense, a top 10 defense last year. I think this is a team we've talked about a lot that was better than what its record indicated. There aren't many teams you say that about. I definitely say that about this team. I think with coaching, they're even better. With the return of Derwin James, assuming he can return back to his all-pro level. We haven't seen that in a couple years. If he can do that, I'm buying this. I think this is going to be a good Chargers team. I think they're going to contend in the division. I don't know that they're as good as the Chiefs right now, but I certainly think they have a chance to get into the playoffs this year with just a little coaching, because they got some things to build around on both sides of the ball. So I'm buying this team and I'm buying this defense.
Yeah, I agree with you. Buy the team, buy the defense. And look, I think one of the reasons why the Rams did what they did in the flip-flop of quarterbacks for Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, they know what the Chargers are putting together. And I don't think they thought they were going to lose Brandon Staley after 1 year. And my guess is Sean McVay didn't want to have to go out and hire a new defensive coordinator. He liked what they had going on defensively. The Rams were worried about the Chargers. I know people say, they only play each other once every 4 years in the regular season. They're not in the same division. They're not even in the same conference yet, but they're in the same city. And there's only so much time that people in Los Angeles are going to devote to NFL football. So they're going to pick one team or the other. You got most cities, you got one team to choose from. LA, you got two. And the Rams were the default. Well, if the Chargers all of a sudden become the team, then you're going to have people who decide, Rams, we'll worry about you when, maybe when you get rid of those ugly uniforms and are better on the field. We like the Chargers. We like the uniforms. We like the coach. We like everything about them. So I'm buying the Chargers. Rams, let's stay there. Raheem Morris in for Brandon Staley. We mentioned Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey earlier in the program. NFL best in points allowed with 18.5, and also the top defense for yards allowed, 282 a game. But they were torched by Green Bay in the divisional round. Are we buying or selling the Raheem Morris defense in Los Angeles, Charean?
Well, I think anytime, Mike, that you have the number one player in football, and I think Aaron Donald is that, and the fact that he doesn't play the quarterback position obviously lowers him down behind Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and some others. But when we talk about non-quarterbacks, he's the guy, right? And Jalen Ramsey's the best cornerback in football, or if not the best, one of the best. We can argue whether he's the best or not, but he's certainly right up there in the top 2 or 3 in football. So when you have those two guys, it's a good place to start. They were number one overall this year. I just think that they'll get it done again with Raheem Morris. The problem for them is they have a ton of free agents: Leonard Floyd, Troy Hill, John Johnson, and we know they don't have much money to re-sign those guys. And you look at all the defensive touchdowns they had, that carried them in the game against Seattle in the postseason. That defense did, scoring those touchdowns and the way they did it. They did that all year long. You think back to all the games where they scored defensive touchdowns where their offense just didn't do very much, and it made a difference. And I don't know if they're going to be able to make all those plays defensively that they made with scoring and setting up short fields, but I think they know how to get it done on defense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. And we have those two guys, Mike. It's a great place to start. Other guys are going to want to play on that defense to play with those two guys.
$22 million in dead cap money attributed to Jared Goff, which makes it hard to have a great team on the field. And when you give away your first-round draft picks, you give away the opportunity to have a guy locked in for 4 or 5 years at a reasonable salary. Another flaw with this idea of having no first-round picks from 2017 through at least 2023. My goodness, Rams. Oh, well. One more. And I'm going to pick one of these three. We got Dolphins, Bucks, Patriots. Let's go Patriots, because I'm buying the Dolphins. Yeah. I'm buying the Bucks. Are you buying the Patriots for 2021?
Well, we talked about the opt-outs. Are they going to come back? Yeah. Is Dante Hightower going to come back? Is Patrick Chung going to come back? Is Stephon Gilmore going to be injury-free this next year? I guess I'm buying them simply because you got Bill Belichick calling the shots, Mike. But I do have questions about those guys if they're going to come back. If they come back, yeah, I think they're as good or better than what they were this past season. They were 15th in total defense and in yards allowed. I think they can be better than that defensively with Bill Belichick and with some additional parts. He does amazing things with that defense. We know that. That keeps them in games. It kept them in games this year. I'm like you. Who did we say earlier with the Bears? They need some offense, and you worry about who the quarterback's going to be. I think it's the same with the Patriots. Who's the quarterback going to be, and are they going to be able to chew up some time of possession to keep that defense off the field? To me, that's the key with the Patriots.
And you mentioned Gilmore. There were serious trade talks about him before the deadline. I have a feeling he won't even be on the team.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.